I'm going to start by just introducing myself. My name is Michelle Wooddell, and I wear a number of hats. So Kayla, I was at the Detroit Historical Society for 11 years. I saw Kayla come in from there. And then in 2013, I founded my own firm, which is now called the Nonprofit Spot. And we help in the Metro Detroit area and also now in Florida. We helped small to mid-sized nonprofits with fundraising and management and events and marketing, all sorts of things. It's been great, a great almost 8 years now. It's hard to believe. So that's what I do on this side of the state. On the other side of the state, I am actually a professor at Grand Valley State University. I run the Masters of Philanthropy and Nonprofit Leadership program and the Graduate Certificate in Nonprofit Leadership. Yay, Kayla. So, I've been there for now 7 years, got tenure this year. So very happy about that. And today I'm here to talk to you about fundraising. So I am a certified fundraising executive, and I've been at it for what feels like my life, but probably is really not, because I don't think I was doing it in high school. And so just a couple rules of the road here. I'm going to do my best to monitor the chat as we go. If for some reason I am missing your question, put it all in caps, or, I'll do my best to kind of keep looking at that as we go. I'm going to go slide by slide and talk about the subject that we're talking about today. And I'll pause after each slide and, we can have a discussion, have questions, things like that. So I don't see anything in the chat that says, stop, Michelle, we've lost you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Hang on. Tab, okay, application window. We'll pull it up here. There we go. So I'm here to talk about fundraising, and I'm here to talk about, good times and bad times. And, the moral of the story today is going to be that as fundraisers and as nonprofit folks, we have lots of ways to raise money. And part of what we have to do, especially when times are tough, is really figure out what we're best at. What fits best with our organization, and how are we going to be most successful raising funds? So I'm just going to start with a review of all the different ways that there are to raise money. And, there's lots of little parts here. So we've got corporations, obviously, whether it's grants, whether it's sponsorships, whether it's just the dealership down the road giving us $100 to DTE Energy giving us, $25,000 or $100,000. Of course, we've got foundations to raise money from, and government grants if we are so inclined. Although, quite frankly, locally and certainly the state have a number of different grant programs that actually reach into smaller and more mid-sized government grants. We don't always have to be going for the multi-million-dollar grants from the federal government. Individuals, that can range from somebody giving us $10 or $5 to somebody giving us $1 million. And, I'm going to talk about the ways that we think about that and how do we figure out what part of that we're really good at. And then, special events, we can do any number of things, right? From walkathons and bowl-a-thons, although in a COVID world, that's a lot harder now. Becomes virtual walkathons or run-a-thons, to, the black tie galas that right now we're precluded from having. But, I've certainly seen over the last couple months some great virtual events. So that's really where we're going to focus today. You guys all with me? Yes, we can see your slides. You're all good right now? No questions yet? All right. So I'm going to start by talking about how do we what questions should we be asking? So when we're looking at, and a lot of us right now are probably setting our 2021 budgets, especially if we're on a calendar year, fiscal year. So what questions should we be asking ourselves? And I kind of, put it in the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So, the first question to ask is, who do we have on our team? Is the board engaged in fundraising, or are they not? Is this going to be a staff-driven effort? Because the decisions that we're going to make should be directly related to who's going to do the asking. Now, some of you are probably sitting out there. If we were live and I could see all your faces, I'm sure you'd be sitting there saying, I want my board to ask, but they don't. Or I have 1 or 2 board members who ask. That's what you need to put on the paper, right? Who is going to do our fundraising? If it's literally just 2 people that you can count on, those are the 2 you have to concentrate on. There's, especially when times are bad, you can't, I don't want to say waste time, but you can't spend a lot of time trying to get people to help you who really don't want to help. You've got to play to your strengths and go to those people who are ready to help. What are those individual strengths? Are they people, right? Do they have a wide network? Or is it more of a staff-driven effort and your staff's really good at writing? If so, then you need to kind of move in that direction. That doesn't mean that you can't develop other strengths, but, especially now when times are perhaps a little tighter and we're not sure what the future holds, you really have to zero back in on what is my team good at. If it's board, if it's staff, if it's volunteers, however I've done my fundraising or whoever I can count on, what are they good at? Maybe they're really good at special events. I hate to say it, but if that's the truth, then we have to figure out how to adapt that. When do I need the dollars? I can't tell you how many times I get calls from people saying, oh, so-and-so recommended you and I need $10,000 before the end of the month. Well, it's November 10th. And if you need funds before the end of the year, what am I going to say to you? I'm going to say, get out your list and start calling. Because all the different techniques we're going to talk about today have different time frames. If I don't need the money right now, like tomorrow, then I can choose differently. I can play more of the long game. But if I need the dollars, within the next month or so, then I have to go in that direction. Why do I need the dollars? So as we go through and we talk about, what do individuals like to do versus what do companies like to give to, I'm sure you're nodding your head and saying, if only everyone would give me general operating support and then I could put it where I need it. Well, not everybody does that. And so one of the things we have to do is figure out, what am I going to use this money for? And then we're going to try and align that with the type of fundraising that we're going to do. It doesn't do me any good to really need general operating support and then spend my time writing grants for program support. Even dressed up operating support as program, that may not get the job done. So I've really got to be honest about, why do I need these dollars? And then, here's a heart stopper, right? How many resources do I or can I devote to these efforts? We need to be realistic as we start to build our plans. If you as the executive director or the director of development or the director of annual fund, whatever your title is and whoever you have on your team, if you're pulled in a million different directions, you really need to stop and think about, what does that mean? And how many hours a week am I really going to devote to fundraising? Because I've seen people who want to say, gosh, I just really want to spend my time cultivating major gifts. Well, that takes time, and you have to do it over and over again. And it has a long lead time, usually, in terms of when I need the dollars. And so all of these things have to balance out to make it so that I know which fundraising aspect to choose, or which fundraising technique to choose. I believe you are going to get my slides. Yes. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to ask for questions, or I'm just going to, ask for how you feeling about that. Actually, let's see. All right. I don't have the ability to do a poll. So somebody tell me what are the challenges to this? Sounds good, right? Everything I just say. Yeah, I'm going to sit down with my pen and my paper and I'm just going to answer these questions and then I'll know what to do. What stops that? No time, that's for sure. Seems to be a running theme. Yeah, exactly. No time. And maybe, for some of those smaller organizations out there, maybe you don't know how to do it. Yeah, fewer staff, absolutely. Right? So you're sitting literally like I am in a room by yourself trying to think this through. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to share my screen again, hopefully. And I'm going to go on to, let's be realistic here about, hang on, did I lose you guys? There we go. All right. Sorry. Let's be realistic here about what corporations want. So a lot of people will come up and say, I need a grant writer. I've got to write more grants. Well, first of all, in order to write grants, the answer to the who do I need on my team? I've got to have somebody who has good writing skills, but I also have to have an interpersonal skills person, right? I have to have that person who's not afraid to pick up the phone and talk to a foundation program officer, call the Community Foundation of Southeastern Michigan, call the team at DT Energy or the dealership down the road. So, oftentimes I hear from organizations that they're like, no, I need to write more grants. I need to sit down, lock myself in a room and just kick out more proposals. That's not how it works. So with corporations and foundations, it's hard because I have to have somebody who's good at both of those. They have to nurture the relationships and they have to write the proposals. I also, in terms of why I need the funding and when I'm going to get the funding, corporations and foundations, I'm not going to say that they don't do operating support, but we've all been there and we know that more often than not, we have to dress up our general operating support as program support, right? We put a nice bow on it, we give it a special name, and there we go. And now it's turned into magically a program. Sometimes I can do that and sometimes I can't. And so I have to be realistic about, is this going to give me the type of dollars that I need, that I can spend in the way that I need? And then this takes time, right? This isn't just, I pick up the phone and the next thing I know, a check is there. Now, Michelle's caveat here. One time I actually did do that. And all credit to Randy Ross at the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan. Go, Randy. We were in dire straits one day at the Historical Society, and I needed 10 grand by the end of the week. These were the olden days, 2002, 2003 for us, and he came through for me. So I'm not going to say it never happens, but realistically, it's going to take time. They have cycles. They have grant cycles. They have people that review the proposals. You may go back and forth. And so if you're looking at your budget and you're saying, yeah, I've got a gap in January. Well, corporate and foundation money may not be where you want to look. Okay, so I'm going to pause there and I'm going to see if anybody has questions. I like that, Dawn, blocking out time on your calendar. It would absolutely not have happened if I didn't have a prior relationship with Randy. There's no question about that. So I had been building that, and he, I'm sure he heard the desperation in my voice, but he also had, trust in what I was saying. No question about it. How many of you, just show of hands, yes or no, do you get money from corporations and foundations? Are you good at doing this? Is this a strength of yours, your organizations? What do you think? Dan's all over it. I would expect nothing less, Dan. Yes, but not a strength. It is harder this year. And, that's the other thing that I would like to just mention is as times get tough and as we are sitting here thinking about, the pandemic, as we're sitting thinking about the economic challenges that everyone is facing, corporations pull back first, quite frankly. What we saw in 2008 was the immediate pullback of all corporations. It felt like all corporations. I'm sure it wasn't, but it sure felt like it. Because at the end of the day, their charitable dollars are usually resulting from profits, right? And so corporations pull back first. Foundations actually pull back usually last, because they have longer lead times in terms of the way that they allocate their budgets, and because they usually are giving, 5% of a rolling 3-year average. Well, it takes time for the changes in the stock market to hit them a little bit differently. Individuals, somewhere in the middle. Some pulled back right away and some didn't. And so, given where we're at, that's another thing that we have to really think about is, our corporate folks, keeping them close, making sure that the people who've supported us in the past, 100%, Beth, I love it. Making sure that the people who've supported us in the past understand what's happening in our organization and why we're doing what we're doing. What about foundations? How many of you have good foundation support out there and know how to do it and have that person who can do both, that unicorn who can not only nurture the relationship, but then turn around and write the proposal? Anybody have anybody like that out there? All right. Suma, I like it. Suma found a unicorn. Kayla has a unicorn. Those are hard. Those are different skills, right? So Dawn has a grant writer, but Dawn, the other piece of it is you've got to find somebody who can make the relationships, right? Because oftentimes people become grant writers because they're more internally focused, right? They like sitting down and churning out words. I at times like just sitting there. All right, Dawn's got to do that. That's good. So I just want to, before we leave corporations and foundations, I just want to point out that, depending on how you answer those questions, corporations, foundations may be for you, but then again, maybe not. All right, I'm going to go on to individuals and talk about them for a moment. All right, so hopefully you can all see that. Let me see here. There we go. All right, so individuals. The key there is, sometimes it's a short time, sometimes it's a long time of, communication, cultivation, solicitation. The key is that I can't expect somebody to give to me once a year and never talk to them the other 11 months, right? I often see that we only talk to the prospects when we want something. And so what I would say about really good individual giving is you have to have someone who's actively thinking about these people. Even if they're $100 donors, they still want to know what's happening in the organization. Now, I'm sure a number of you send like e-newsletters or maybe even printed newsletters, and that can do some of it, right? But that's going to keep you probably in the smaller realm, the $100 donors, the $50 donors. Our larger $1,000 major gift donors, $10,000 major gift donors, that takes, the whole cycle. I've got to identify them. I've got to invite them in. I've got to cultivate them. I've got to solicit them. I've got to actively communicate with them over and over again. And, in this pandemic world where we're all doing things like this, that can be a lot harder. I spend a lot of my day helping clients really talk about how do we, especially some of our folks who are tired of Zoom calls or tired of, Google Meets. How do we stay in communication with our prospects? What else I would say is money, sometimes it comes quickly, right? I guarantee you, if somebody comes into my office or gives me a call and says, I need $10,000 before the end of the month, the first thing I'm going to say is pull your individual list and let's go through it. And let's figure out who can give you money. Because quite frankly, individuals can take as long or as short of time as they want to give you money, right? I can call up and have money tomorrow from my mother, maybe. But other prospects, it may take more time. And so, depending upon what I'm really good at in an individual realm, and whether it's, primarily more of an annual fund versus a major giving program, maybe I can get the money I need, really, get that $10,000 before the end of the month. The other thing I'll say about individuals is, they're more flexible. If you're talking to somebody, you can make the case for general operating support and why you need it. You can make the case for a certain program that you need because you're having that one-on-one, and you can help direct in the best of worlds, you can help direct their charitable support to what you need and what they want to support. And that's a really big thing. So I do have that more fungibility, if you will, and flexibility. Here's the key. I can't just go out and start asking people. I mean, I can, but that's only going to work to a certain degree. To do individual giving really well, once you get above a certain number of prospects or people, you have to have a system. You have to have processes. You have to be able to give them a thank you letter when they make a gift. You have to be able to process that and put them in a database that then adds them to the newsletter and gets them in the communication cycle. And that takes people, right? So oftentimes what I see is organizations can do this with a very small group of prospects really well. Those are the people that, I may have, in my phone to communicate with immediately. Once I get above that or it becomes unmanageable, that's the point at which I've really got to think, wait a minute, what do I need on my staff or on my team? Who do I need in order to make this happen? So I'm going to pause there. Tell me, how many of you, in the chat, are you in the annual giving world or are you in the major gifts world? Or do you do both? Yep. No sports staff. That's pretty typical. How about the rest of you? Both. Okay. Come on, I'm hearing from lots of people, but it's always the same people. The rest of you, are you out there? We do both. Okay. 2 staff members. So Dan, I'm curious, do you think that the skill set for major giving and annual giving, is it different? Those of you who do both? Diane, I say you do annual giving. Have you given thought to what it's going to take, the skill set of a person to do major gifts? Giving Tuesday, okay. Well, it's coming up December 1st, right? So Giving Tuesday is something that generally falls in the individual realm. What do you think about this, everybody? I mean, on one hand, individuals is the easiest path to money. And when I am sitting down with somebody who is just starting out fresh, in fundraising, I almost always, I don't say make them start, but suggest that they start with individual giving, right? But what happens? Why, if we know that individuals give general operating, I can get the money quickly, what stops me? Why do I have so many people in my line of work coming to me and saying, I want to write grants? Tell me why. What do you think? The phone weighs 400 pounds. Boy, that's a great way to say it. You've got to go back to who is asking, right? It's true. I can get more money, right, for my effort. Unless I'm playing in the world of major gifts. But the key here is, I have to have somebody who's comfortable asking. And most of us feel really comfortable writing grants and sending them into the ether, right? And hoping, or even contacting, absolutely, even contacting a corporation. When it's an individual, a lot of us will pull back and say, wait a minute, I'm asking this person to give out of their pocket, right? I'm asking this person to, I have to pick up the phone, I have to chase them down, I have to ask them, I have to say the words, could you make a donation? I have to steward them, I have to cultivate them. It takes time. And those are all stoppers. And so, you know, what I would say is you need to be realistic. And most of us, we want to be careful that we don't let those things stop us, because there's no question that individuals and, you know, all the research that was done about the downturn of 2008, 2009, and, you know, on in Detroit, all the research shows that the people who stayed with organizations, charitable organizations, and continued giving were those $50 to $100 donors. We saw major gift people go away. We saw corporations go away. We saw foundations change their focus. Our $50 donors stayed with us. Crystal's asking, is the asking a legit thing to ask board members to do? Absolutely, if they're willing to. And so that's kind of the interplay here. If you decide that you want to grow your individual donor base, you have to find somebody to do it. And you're not going to have success making somebody do it who doesn't want to do it. You're going to have to bring somebody on who's actually wanting to do this. There's nothing worse, because I've done it, trying to make someone make a phone call. It just doesn't work. Can't do it. I mean, you know, you can threaten them, you can incentivize them, you can do all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, they're not going to pick up the phone and ask. So yes, it is a legit thing, absolutely, for board members to do, but they have to be willing to do it. And that's the key. It goes back to that who. Who is usually the stopper for our individuals. All right, now I got to go to the one that everybody take a deep breath. Wouldn't that be a reason to solicit that type of board member? Absolutely. That's what you have to do, is you, before you go and solicit individuals, you've got to get the who. You've got to get the asker. Everybody take a deep breath. We're going to go on to special events. I know, but I had to include it. All right. So special events are a breed of fundraising unto themselves. We know that it's a higher risk and it can be a decent reward if we do it right. But for smaller organizations, you have to be willing to accept that risk, right? Can you front the dollars? Can you pay for the food before you get the money in, the tickets in? The who is, I have to have two different types of people, and they're really not the same person. For a good special event, I've got to have that detail piece, right? I've got to have the logistics piece, the person who is going to order the chairs and make sure we have salt and pepper shakers as well. And, you know, is it the caterer that's bringing that, or is it the event rental people? Then I have to have the salespeople, right? The people who are going to sell the tickets or get their friends to come. I have to get corporations to buy tables or to send their folks or make a sponsorship. So the nice thing about special events is the sky's the limit, right? I've seen foundations come to special events. I've seen corporations and individuals give to special events. Of course we have. But I have to have the who. I have to have the people who can do that and are willing to do that. Obviously, in this world, a lot of us have pulled back from special events or are doing it like we're doing it today, which seems to be really successful. But that takes time and energy, and I have to have some know-how, right? I bet if I asked Jody, you know, did you feel a higher risk with this, you know, getting Motown Digital on board? Did you know it was going to work? There's, you know, in the environment that we're in, it's a tricky thing. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But, you know, the other thing I wanted to say is, generally speaking, the nice thing about special events, and it's hard to say there's a nice thing about special events for those of us who've been doing it a long time, but I can usually direct the money where I need to. I think of the Detroit Zoo's Sunset at the Zoo, where kind of the ticket price and all the sponsorships go to general operations, but then they also choose a program that, they raise money for that night and they direct it towards the frogs or the penguins or whatever. So I have a lot of flexibility in terms of special events. It can also obviously support my cultivation efforts, my solicitation efforts, my stewardship efforts if I do it right. So I'm going to pull back where I can see you all again. Scary to venture into this world. I can imagine, Jody. All right, somebody talk to me about your special events. Are you doing them? Did you have to cancel them? Did you have a big budget gap now? I hear that over and over. Canceled. I was thinking about you when that came up, Beth, and I figured it probably was. How about the Historical Society? Are you guys holding your ball virtually? Just held one in October. Okay. Everything ball is virtual. Okay. That's really the key is if we look at why we do special events, right? Yes, we do it because we want to raise money in the best of both worlds. But we also do it to see people. We do it to interact. We do it to holiday luncheon, nature center. Yeah, I see that. And, we do it to see our people and to raise money. So it has another benefit, right? The key is, in this environment where we're doing a lot of things virtually, do we really get that interaction? Time entry shifted them to virtual. Quite frankly, I've seen a lot of good virtual events over the last month or so. We've really seemed to have gotten our act together and done some good events I've seen. Somebody talked to me, though, about where the money comes from for special events. I want to go back to what Dan said in the chat, which is, hey, wait a minute. If I'm not careful, I'm netting virtually nothing, especially if I add in the cost of staff time. So what sponsorship? Absolutely. It's all about the $10,000 donors. It's all about the $20,000 donors or the $5,000 donors or whatever it is. It is not about the ticket sales. And so again, in order to be really good and use special events for fundraising, I have to have those corporate donors, those foundation donors. I have to have the people who are going to do it. So it's not like I'm just going to say, you know what, let's do a virtual whatever and let's see who comes. That's not going to get it done. So special events is a way of engaging. It's a way of raising money if I do it well. But to Jody's point there, I do have to figure out what I can deliver to my corporate sponsors. Can I still deliver them the interaction that they want? Can I deliver them the name recognition that they want in this virtual environment? Okay. Okay, I think 10 minutes left. I want to go back to where do I start? I've got another series of questions for you all. Where do I start? Okay, good. All right, where do I start? First off, I have to be realistic. What does my team want to do? To what I said to Crystal, there's no sense in trying to convince my board that we should ask individuals for money if they don't want to do it. There's no sense, if the one staff member I have is really good at writing, then I should not make her do special events because it's probably not going to go very well. So I've really got to look at who do I have on my team and what are we good at? When I came into the Detroit Historical Society, the first thing that I did, or when I go in now to any of our clients, the first thing I do is pull all the data. And I say, where are we strongest? What are we good at? What do we like to do? And what have we done successfully in the past? And then how do I build off of that? What are the skills or what are the ways of raising money that align well with that, right? If I have a grant writer on staff, well, maybe it's not a hard transition to also have that person write corporate sponsorship proposals or corporate grants if I have somebody to make the, maybe the executive director or someone on the board to make the contacts. However, if I take that person and I say, you know what, and also I'd like you to plan a special event for 6 months from now and it's online, so go. That's not going to work. Although I said, when do you need the money? We should always be thinking, if we can, yes, we need short-term dollars. Yes, we are all on the clock every day, every year for raising a certain number of funds, a certain dollar figure, right? But we also should be, in the best of both worlds, positioning our organization for long-term growth. We should be thinking about how does this help sustain us over time, right? And if, growing an individual giving program tends to be one of the best ways to grow that long-term growth over time. Because again, those are the people that, if done right, are going to stay with you. And then finally, what can we really realistically afford to do? If I can't afford to hire a grant writer and I don't have anybody on my staff that is a good writer and I'm not a good writer, then I'm not going to be able to do that. I have to go back to my strengths and I have to look at my team realistically. And I have to look at that, hopefully all of you in your budget have a line item for fundraising. And if you don't, you should put one there, right? Because even sending out an annual fund ask takes money. Certainly special events are going to take money. Hiring a grant writer, even if it's a consultant or a contractor, it's going to take money. So I've got to be realistic about what can we afford to do as well. Okay, I'm going to pause and come back to you all here. So where are you going to start? I realize that many of you are well engaged in fundraising right now. But I'm curious, in the last couple minutes here, what are your takeaways from today? My goal is that maybe I helped you think about it a little bit differently, or at the very least gave you some questions that you can take back to your teams and, try and get them to understand we have to have alignment, right? We have to have the people to do it, and we have to make sure that we are raising money for the things that we want in the ways that we're best at. Did that work? Did you get that out of it? What do you think? You've all gone silent because you don't want to admit that this was a waste of your time. No, just kidding. Not try to push someone to do it. That's for sure. It doesn't work. And I would add that they end up hating you or leaving, right? It just gets uncomfortable after a while. What about the rest of you? Beth, you had to cancel your event. What are you doing what are you doing else? How are you going to raise that money? I know that was a big money. How do we seek out those people? Which people, Jody? The people that we want to solicit, or the people that we want to, the fundraiser? Yeah, so the first thing I would say is, how much can you afford, right? Are you bringing a fundraiser on staff or using a contractor? That's what my team does, but, there are grant writers out there. There are, Catch a Fire is out there that would help you and give you, some advice. Beth says our two biggest sponsors supported other COVID appropriate events. That's good. That's good. So we can look to channel some of the money that we were getting for special events into other things. Absolutely. But how do I do this? Where am I going to go? I think Jody's right in that it all starts with who do we have on our team? I mean, I've said that over and over again today. I know I'm sounding probably like a broken record, but it really doesn't matter what we want to do if we don't have the people that will do it and can do it. How do I find those people? Does anybody have any ideas? I mean, I'll say you could come to me and we'll help you, but there should probably be more than that. I'm not here to do a commercial for the nonprofit spot. Grant writers are out there, certainly. The key is Individual giving people, people who are good at asking, who like asking, that's much harder. Whole Giving Tuesday social media campaign, absolutely. Totally appropriate in this world. Absolutely. Someone on your board. The other thing I'll say is don't forget about your, volunteer match, absolutely. Don't forget about those volunteers. Don't forget about, the other people in your organization, the program team. And I know everybody's overwhelmed right now, but the key is not to give your program team, I'll give you an example. We work with a school, and, the development side would love to see everybody engaged in fundraising. Everybody throughout the whole, it's a university level. Everybody throughout the whole organization should be doing some fundraising. I'm like, that's not realistic. What we need to find are the two people on the academic side that are really good at it and like to do it and aren't afraid to do it. And we need to work with them. And we found one, right? We looked and we had a few false starts, but at the end of the day, we found that, I think her name is Associate Dean for something. And she's the people person. She's the one that likes talking to people. And so pairing her with somebody like me who could ask, well, we've been able to knock out a few prospects, right? So I've got to find somebody on my team. And in these unique times when we're cutting staff, when we don't have a lot of resources, we may have to look at our teams a little differently. Other questions for me? Because I think we're bumping up on time, right, Jody? I think we have 45-minute sessions. Yes. So we've got 2 minutes. Thank you, Dan. What else? Last minute questions. This is it. Fire away. It's like the lightning round. Help, where do I go from here? Good to see you guys. I'm sorry I don't see familiar faces, but do false starts hurt the image of the organization? It depends on what type of false start you mean, Crystal. If it's a false start and it was just poorly executed and, not well thought out, well, maybe. But if it was a false start that was good intentioned and, you thought it would work and for some reason it didn't, that's okay. We're just going to keep trying. That's the other thing I would say as we get ready to close here is don't give up. Don't give up hope. The people who have supported you, even though they may be struggling too, there's a reason that people give to nonprofits, and it goes way beyond the tax donation, and it even goes way beyond the mission. There's a lot of research out there that says, we feel better, and in a tough world right now, we feel better when we're able to help others. And that's the message that I hope that we are giving to, our teams, our boards, and everybody out there.